Hello and welcome back to Take This TV, the television book club podcast where each week we watch an episode or two of our favorite shows and talk about it with our friends in the fandom. That's you! Oh my gosh. Hey, I'm Carmen and I'm joined by my dear friend and our new co-host, Kimberly Woods. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. This is our second episode this season where we're watching the show Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So if you binged it all, hello, welcome. We're watching it week by week. So hopefully you'll join us and watch it. If you haven't watched episode 2 yet, go watch that and then come back and listen to this.
Yes.
Kimberly,
So
what's episode 2 about?
Episode 2 is called Second Date, and this is the official Amazon blurb for it. The episode title is called Second Date. Dressed for a sinister black tie event, John and Jane set ground rules at home before leaving. Their target, Eric Shane, turns things upside down, leaving the Smiths to make things right on their awkward second date.
Ooh, awkward is the operative word.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how they include the ground rules in there too.
So, what did you think about episode 2, Kimberly?
Oh my gosh. I loved episode 2. There was so much awkwardness in it that was just amazing and at times uncomfortable to watch. And I love Eric Shane, played by the wonderful John Turturro, who's a brilliant actor, was super fun to watch.
He was great. You know what? There was definitely, I feel like they did such a great job with the chemistry between Maya Erskine and Donald Glover in this show because second dates are always awkward, and I think that like the energy is definitely there just from the beginning of the episode because we kind of start off with Jane like waking up and she reaches over for Max. At first I was like, is she reaching for John or is she reaching for Max?
Or also I was like, wait a second, she's used to sleeping with somebody.
Ooh.
Like, like she likes to pretend she's all cold and, doesn't care. But I was like, whoa, maybe she actually had somebody, maybe she's out of a breakup or something. That's what I thought too, that she was like reaching for a person until she went downstairs and seeks out Max. But man. Right? Didn't it feel like that?
Yeah, that's a good call. I didn't even think about that because it was like kind of like an instinctive, I'm just waking up.
Yeah.
Like, oh, maybe Jane's got secrets.
Yeah. She certainly has secrets, and I think she's pretty good at hiding them. As we kind of see, she sets up John by putting the the cannibalism porn on her computer for him to like find or discover, because she's like snooping around in his bag in the beginning of the episode. And then, she leaves to go get bagels, and then he's like trying to snoop on her and finds this like website on her computer. But at the end of the episode, we found out that she's kind of planted that there for him to see if he would spy.
I love that she gets caught and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, going through your stuff. It just like gets really like aggressive about it. And I was like, well, that's a strategy. Yeah.
What did we think about their initial setup, their pact that they set up in the beginning in the kitchen?
I mean, John is so smooth because he's like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't have sex because, or wait, no, does she say that or does he say that? I think I'm getting it mixed up. I think she says that, right?
I think she says that. I think he's kind of like hoping that she'll be on board because she's like, do you think like the agency kind of wants us to like maybe,
That's right.
And she's like, no. And so then they come up with a pact where it's like, okay, but he admits like, would it be so bad to like come home at the end of the day? Like marriage wouldn't be so bad because you can come home and talk about your troubles or whatever. And then she's like, okay, let's make a pact that we'll go our separate ways once we make enough money, since we're like both in this for money, and that we won't have sex ever, basically. He's like, no sex. Pact. She's like, no sex.
He's like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Not even a little bit?
Like, never.
Oh, never. You know what? Thinking back on it now, when Max was outside with John while he was doing yoga, like the door was closed to the patio. So like, did he go in there and get Max, or did he like? Because I was like, wait, how did Max get outside?
That's funny. I didn't even clock that the door was closed. Yeah, so did he like get him, or did the cat come out and he's like, yeah, stay out here. Let's make her jealous.
maybe it's just like a continuity thing, and Max is like opening doors and stuff. He's a smart kitty.
I could see him kind of like wanting to make her jealous, though. Like, your cat likes me. You know?
It's true. I mean, Max is a fan, apparently. That's a good sign.
Mm-hmm. We also see him getting jealous of the neighbor, right? Because like Jane calls the neighbor hot.
The hot neighbor.
Yeah. She's like, he's hot. And John's like, what? Really? Think so?
Was that actor, is it Paul Dano?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
He was the Riddler in the Batman, right?
I think so.
Yeah, he was great. He was really like creepy. Did you think he was creepy?
Yeah. He was wasn't he asking about the trash? I mean the compactor or something?
Well, because at first he said
about...
your cat keeps like
compost
tearing up my yard and pooping in my yard, and my dog's eating the cat poop. And she was like, I don't have a cat. And that's how he started talking about their garden and like them having a composting thing on their roof.
Yeah. So I love that we like get that set up for the compost. You know, we're like talking about it right at the beginning, and that becomes a key part in this episode.
Definitely foreshadowing.
But like he's paying attention to their compost, like this neighbor.
I got the vibe that he is part of whatever the organization is.
Yeah, he seems a little bit more than just a nosy neighbor. It seems like he has something else going on. Like he's keeping an eye, or he's like, yeah.
Especially because the first thing he says is, do you have a cat? And from the last episode, at least we were theorizing that like Max is Jane's personal cat. And then she says no, which is like, if the cat is part of their cover, why would she say no?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, is he like asking because the organization is like, are you bringing your personal life into work? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought that was
that
weird.
Theory. I like that theory, Carmen. Yeah.
But yeah, she was into the creepy vibes he was giving off.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so do you think she was just saying that he was hot to make John jealous? Or do you think she actually was like, oh, this guy's like my type?
I feel like she just wanted to make him jealous.
Yeah.
Do you think that he was actually her type? Because I was like, I don't know. Is that really your type?
She seemed pretty nonplussed by the end of the conversation, so I feel like she was trying to make him jealous. Because like when she comes inside and she's looking for him and like expects him to be in the kitchen, and she sees that he's by the window and was like watching the whole interaction. Yeah. And so I feel like she says it to make him jealous because he was watching.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think so. I love that their mission is this black tie event. Because I'm like, oh yes, any excuse to, dress up and and go on a classic spy mission.
Yes, look, any like D&D or any kind of show or adventure where there's an excuse to go to a party, I'm like, yes.
Yes, it's the best. And I love it's so funny because like, again, so we have that set up with the Pact, and then I feel like when they arrive, she's like, okay, we're gonna stick together. And then immediately he's like, actually, you know what? Take my jacket, check it. I'm going in the back as a caterer because, I'm going to stand out too much if I'm one of 6 black guys here.
Which, like, when they got there and he said that, I was like, oh, that's really smart because it's like a high society event. And then I was like, but Jane goes up to the person is like, oh, yeah, Jane Smith. And it's like, you're on the list. So you have a cover of like, oh, yeah, we're just like some aristocratic or some wealthy people who just moved to town or whatever. So John's just being extra. Like, again, like, somebody who has this idea of what a spy is versus what it actually is.
But it ends up being perfect. Having him on the other side as one of the caterers. Because we find out that our Eric Shane character is attracted to guys and has been eyeing some of the caterers. And so that's their in. That ends up being their in for their mission.
John's able to discover that it's a silent auction, so he finds out that Eric Shane is person who has bid on the silver car crash Andy Warhol piece. Which like when they were talking about that, I was like, my art history professor would be so disappointed. Of like, so I'm like, silver car crash. I feel like I should know that. But anyway, he's able to figure out that it's Eric Shane is the person they're looking for.
Yeah.
But then he and Jane kind of misread each other's signals a bit of like trying to figure out how to, because their instructions from the organization were to isolate the buyer, give the buyer one shot of truth serum, no more, and then to record everything the buyer says and make sure there are no witnesses.
And no
all
casualties.
And no casualties.
And no casualties. No casualties, no witnesses. Yeah.
So once they identify Eric Shane, what did you think?
I was cracking up at their approaches to him, because John's like, hurry, flirt with him. And Jane's like, flirt? What are you talking about?
What's that?
Her in is like, they find out what his address is or something. Like in the earpiece, John tells Jane like, oh, he lived at such and such address. And so she's like, oh, you own that place on, whatever, such, 1234 road. It's such a great spot. You're like, I'm your neighbor. And he's like, okay. Like, oh God, why did you pick neighbor?
I mean,
that's
also
so
like,
risky.
It's so random to like, for somebody that's trying to like hit on you to be like, I'm your neighbor. It's like, I'm going to see this person every day. Yeah.
Would you like a mint?
Yeah, because she goes up to him and she's like, mint, and he doesn't hear her. So she says it again. Yeah. Well.
The awkwardness is so good. But yeah, they find out that he's like eyeing some of the guys. And so then Jane has this great idea that's like, hey, why don't we just like pay one of these caterers to come into a back room and do whatever we want? He's like, yeah, okay.
He's like, oh,
so
yeah.
Of course, she points out John. Yeah, perfect. What do you think about that scene, Carmen?
Oh, man. So, okay, they go upstairs to this private room, and you're like, okay, what's going to happen? Is this, I mean, because they definitely play with the idea of like, oh, these people are all really rich folks, and they have like eccentric tastes. And so he tells John to like get on his knees and essentially wants them to like act out being dogs. And in my head, I was like, okay, nobody's around. They said that you shouldn't kill anyone, but they didn't say what state the person had to be in. So I'm like, just like F this guy up in a gangster style and find out what you need to know. But I mean, they were trying to be covert. So they went along with it for a while. And I mean, like, there's a part of me that's like, were they both just kind of going along with it to see like how far the other person would go? So what did you think?
I love that moment. To me, as an actor, it also felt like some sort of theater exercise that you would like do on the stage, just because it's like so, just walk around the space. Okay, now like you crawl around the space and pretend you're a dog, and you're arriving in a park for the first time. Like there's something very theater acting exercise at first. I mean, before it got like kiss or whatever. Just that element of like embody the dog, like really feel it.
Is that
I loved. I mean, I've had to like crawl, like pretend to be a baby on stage, pretend like walk like this, or like pretend to be an animal, like in mocap too. Like you're you're an orangutan. You're getting angry, you're hungry. Like you embody different animals, as well as humans, as well as many ages. So it's very much a exploratory, weird, like to witness, like if you're not in it thing. And so I love that aspect about it. Like it felt very acting exercises, and John kind of guiding them through this at first.
That's a cool little Easter egg.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. But then
obviously it gets weird when he's like, okay, now you're meeting for the first time, and now kiss.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, they're going along. I did think like, okay, they're like challenging each other, like how far are we gonna go with this? But then also like, did you pick up some thirst from them there, Carmen? Like, as far as attraction to each other? Because it's like, they're kind of into those two a little bit, because they're like, you know, when their faces were getting close.
I mean, I definitely felt like there was like this sexual tension that's been there between them since the beginning. And I feel like this is like an excuse for them. They seem like the kind of people that's like, well, I'm not going to admit that I have feelings for this person, but if there's an excuse for us to make out, then it's just work. Like, it's not anything serious. So, I also felt like, okay, that feels like a real thing that people would do.
Yeah.
Like, if there's an excuse
Yeah.
for me and my crush to like
Yeah.
kiss or whatever.
Get close. Okay, I guess I'll get a little closer. But then he starts to join in, and that's when I was like, okay, guys, how long are you gonna try to, like, you know, go with this? You can kind of do it now. And that's when we get the moment where we see John kind of like gesture, and then they both stab him at the same time.
When I definitely I thought that was such a great moment, because when John made the gesture of like stab him, I thought he was saying to Jane, you stab him, because I didn't know that John had a shot also. And so they both stabbed him at the same time, which was explicitly against the instructions from the organization.
I thought John was gonna stab. That's how I read the gesture. But I can see, like, yeah. Because originally she was gonna get close, and she was gonna try to do it in the middle of the room at first.
Oh, yeah, that's
like,
right.
And he was like, no witnesses. But yeah, we get this hilarious moment where they both stab him. And then almost immediately, Eric Shane is blubbering truths.
Yeah, he's like having a trip and also having a medical emergency at the same time. And he can't stop telling the truth. And they try to like figure out what to do. They're both kind of stunned by like, we like, what do we do to this guy? Is he gonna OD or whatever? But Eric bursts out of the room and runs back into the party. And of course, naturally, because it's a TV show, as soon as he gets back in there, they're calling him on stage about being like a donor for the event or something. Or no, because he won the auction for the piece. And so he was going up there and then starts like spilling all this tea about the different aristocratic folks in the room. What did you think about that?
How was that watching it for you, Carmen, as far as awkwardness?
Oh my gosh. You know what? Secondhand embarrassment is tough. So I was like, oh geez, this is rough to watch.
Yeah, it was extremely awkward, and then at the same time I was like, oh my gosh, does this mean they automatically failed now? Because like everybody is witnessing this nonsense.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, like I was like, what's gonna happen now? So I was also not only worried about like this, what he was gonna be saying, but just like, what does this mean right now for their mission? Is it just over?
Well, at first I thought they were in the clear, because I was like, okay, just don't go close to the stage. You guys will be okay. Like everybody's recording him, like spilling all this tea. But then he starts to kind of collapse, and everybody thinks he's just drunk. But then John gets closer, and like they're trying to play it off of like, oh, you know, we'll get him some medical help or whatever. But he kind of calls out that like, these are the people, like we were dogs together. You drugged me or whatever, and they try to play it off. It's like, oh, this guy's babbling. Don't listen to what he's saying.
And then they rush him into their, into their car, and then we get this crazy scene where Jane is driving like a bat out of hell. I'm like, whoa. And they can't take him to the emergency room, obviously, so they're racing home.
Yeah, Jane's drawing attention to themselves, racing through the city, and then she like bumps into or she like scrapes along the side of a truck, and one of their side view mirror comes off, and I'm like, evidence. Evidence, guys, come on. So they're not very good spies.
No. Which is part of the delight.
Yes, it is. Like seeing them fail so epically is pretty good. They take him back. But they don't think it's over
yet. Yeah.
And like I was like, guys, you live here. Why are you bringing him to your house? But I guess what do you do in that situation?
Yeah. And then they're trying to find an EpiPen to help, to see if that will do anything, and trying to keep him awake. And then he says something interesting. He was like, you're lonely. Now, was he saying that just to Jane, or do you think that was directed to both of them?
I feel like he was directing it towards both of them.
Yeah.
because it felt like he was trying to say like, oh, you're both like me because you're just lonely or whatever. Yeah. What did you think?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't sure at the time. It seemed like because he was kind of like saying in Jane's direction, but I think it could be meant for both of them too. But either way, I think the point is like, hey, I see you. Like, yeah, I know what loneliness is, and you guys are it. Which makes me like, is that why they wanted to be part of this too? I mean, I feel like Jane is constantly saying, no, 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 I didn't sign up for that. But I kind of think she wants it. She's just scared of it and trying to protect herself.
It does seem like they both kind of are trying to find some kind of companionship.
Yeah.
And despite their best efforts, Eric does die on the kitchen floor.
That was shocking.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait a second, is he really dead? Is he really dead? And they take him into the bathtub and they're like, okay, how are we going to deal with the body? You know, you take the feet and break the legs. I'll break the arms so we can fit him in the compost.
Oh
and I thought, I was like, okay, is he going to like wake up as soon as they like break something? Like maybe he's not actually dead.
I didn't even think about that.
No, they both go to break something and yes, he's dead. No movement. And, you know, we get John almost puking.
That scene was so funny of him like almost puking and her being like, if you throw up, I'm going to throw up.
Yeah. I'm so glad it didn't go farther than that because sometimes those vomiting scenes in TV and film is like hard to watch because then you do feel like you're going to also join in.
Throwing
I was
up
glad
party.
it didn't. Yeah. I was like, please no.
Oh my gosh.
It's like Stand By Me, you know? Do you remember the scene from Stand By Me?
Yeah.
So yeah, luckily it wasn't that. But it was awkward and horrible. They did manage to break limbs and get him in the compost.
I will say, when they're in the bathroom, John is wearing a white shirt. And I mean, I don't know. I was like, dude, there's no way you're not going to get blood all over yourself. And then you see them like dragging him out to the compost and his shirt is still white. And I was like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. But okay.
Oh my God.
So they put him in the compost and John is trying to decompress watching some knockoff Tom and Jerry because he wasn't allowed to watch violent cartoons. And then Jane comes to visit him. And they kind of joke about the human character from I think that character was from Tom and Jerry that they were talking about. The like Southern Mammy character that was really racist. And so they're kind of like, you know, getting to know each other and vibing. And then Jane asks John if he wants to kiss her.
After she was the one in the beginning that was so adamant about, nope, we're never hooking up. No sex. It's part of our agreement. But she asked for the kiss.
She did. And then they started going through each other's stuff.
He was like, yeah. You want to kiss? Yeah. There was like no hesitation.
It's like, oh boy. So,
were you surprised by that, Carmen? Did you think that we would get that in this episode after the initial? I wasn't sure we would. I thought we'd have to wait longer.
I was like, some like really intense thing just happened. They essentially murdered a guy together. And so I was like, their adrenaline's like through the roof. And they had a moment like that in episode 1. And I feel like there was that like really their moment in the bathroom where it was like, are they gonna kiss? And this felt like that. And I was like, they're at home alone. It's about to go down. So yes.
So they failed at their pact almost immediately.
On day 1.
Pretty much. And also the mission, you know, right after they put the body in the dispose of the body, John sends a message to Hi, basically saying, you know, mission complete, 1 casualty, sorry. You know, and then they go have their sexy time moment with the cartoons. But we don't find out until, you know, the next day that Carmen.
Oh man, yeah, it's the best of times and the worst of times. It cuts away from them and their hanky panky to show the screen where Hi replies and says mission incomplete. 1 fail, 2 fails remaining. And it's like, wait, they have 3 strikes? What happens if they get all 3 strikes? And that's where the episode ends.
Which brings us back to the cold open of episode 1. It's like, okay, so was that John and Jane get 3 strikes and that's what happened?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know, but I'll tell you this. Once that happened and the credits started to play, it was hard to not let that autoplay go to the next episode. I was like, I gotta know what happens. But I'll wait because we're a television book club and we watch together.
Yeah. Also, what are the marbles? Because we see Jane, she adds a single blue marble to a jar and it already has 1 marble in it.
I took that as like, oh, she's using the marbles to keep track of how many days she's been on this assignment. But I was like, why would she be doing that? Or like, because we don't know how much time has passed between the episodes. And like, maybe they've been there longer than 2 days. So I don't know. It has to be important because they like took the time to have a shot of it.
For me, at first, I went really dark and was like, oh my God. Because it happened like pretty close to after they disposed of the body. And then, like in episode 1, she never answered the question of if she had killed anybody, and I was like, "Is this a body count thing?" I was like, "Is this?" But like I don't know. That might be too dark. That might be too dark. Or maybe it's like mission number 2 complete. You know?
It's counting the W's. Oh man, we do have to start wrapping up, but I do have one question for you.
Yes.
Do you love this show?
I do. Do you love it, Carmen?
I love it. This show's so fun. I can't get enough.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next and how they respond to their first failure.
Oh my gosh. What's going to happen? I don't know.
Well, join us next time. In the meantime, you can subscribe on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a review. Tell us what you thought on social media. We're at Take This TV on TikTok and Instagram. And thank you for watching, and welcome to the club.
And remember, it's dangerous to watch TV alone.